What's up, goaltenders and goaltending fans? Welcome to The Net Perspective from the-rink.com, where we talk about all things goalies. As always, we're brought to you by our founding sponsors at puckhockey.com. That's puckhcky.com. Head over there, use the-rink as your discount code, get 10% off and all the good stuff that goes on over at that place. You can get yourself some nice wares, metal themed hockey wares and all that stuff. They got your Metallica stuff and all that other good stuff over there too. So anyway, I am Jeff Osborne, aka Gatekeeper or Puck Hostile, as I'm known on the social medias. And over in that other window, over on the other side over there, is my good goaltending buddy, Jeremy Dutch Burton. Between us, we have like about 50 years of playing and coaching experience in the crease. We may be right, we may be wrong, but we'll give you an honest perspective of one of the least understood positions maybe in any sport. So welcome, Dutch. What's up? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Just got back from Pennsylvania for a Miha tournament. We talked about that a little bit. How's everything with you?
Good. The life as I was saying, the life of a travel hockey parent. Finally, I was a kind of a travel type coach for a long time, but I never had a kid involved. Now I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I'm not coaching, but my favorite player calls me dad. As the sweatshirt says that he bought me for Christmas, my favorite player calls me dad, but he's not a goalie, so we I don't have to drag him into any of these miserable conversations that we have to talk about how goalies never get any love and all that other stuff.
It's funny that you say that about the shirt. My wife's got one that says I call dibs on the goalie. And when we were in Pennsylvania, for right off the bat, she's like, I'm bringing the shirt, and I just had to laugh.
Yeah, it's I always have to hang out with their goalie on their team, and because I'm one of the few people out there who understands how it feels to be out there. In some games, you're just out there and you're the only one making any progress out here, and it's just a free for all, like you were saying, kind of in your tournament, where it was like there was some defensive. It was lacking some defense out there, and it seems like the goalie that makes the least amount of
mistakes
wins the game. Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, I know. Our one game, we ended up winning a shootout, and this will be kind of what happened. We won in a shootout, 10-9.
Ooh, you never wanted to see double digits in the scores, especially if it's that close in a shootout.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is if you look at the games across the board for that division that weekend, they were all high games, 10-8, 7-6. Like any team that could play defense a little bit better than the other team had that game locked up.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's, especially with inline hockey too, when you got less people on the rink, and it seems that you don't get quite the commitment to defense in inline as you do kind of in ice. In ice, they take a little more pride in playing defense. In inline, it's an offensive game.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, well, let's get to business here. I mean, it's been a while. We haven't been around. We haven't talked much. You've been busy. Congratulations, my friend. With the birth of your child.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And future goaltender. And I've been busy with my kid and weekends, nights, all that other stuff. I've been spending 4 or 5 nights a week at the rink, so it's been hard to get together and get time. I haven't even been able to be on the Blackhawks Rinkcast much either. So it's been a rough season, but I'm still watching hockey. I'm watching a lot of hockey, watching a lot more than I normally do, but it's been more kid hockey and amateur hockey. But anyway, so what we have here is we have some topics we're going to go over, and so we may bleed over into the next podcast, which is kind of what I'm hoping for. So there's a lot of goaltending stuff that happened, and I wanted to let it kind of pile up a little bit so that we could have a good list to pick from of things that topics and things like that have gone on. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, and it was kind of brought up, I believe, on the Puck Soup podcast. But basically, the fact that this year, as far as goaltending goes, right now, the league average for save percentage, 5-on-5 save percentage or save percentage overall, is lower than it's been since the 06-07 season, which is right in that lockout era, right when everything switched from the lockout. The league average right now is 905. So we're not getting, goalies are not making as many saves as they normally do, they do in a normal year. You figure most years, like there was I'm looking at the stats here, so I can bring it up right in front, but there's a couple years where like 915 was the league average.
Yeah.
In this year, and right now it's 10 points lower than that. Now, before 06-07, there was a 901, a 911, a 909. So it was a little bit lower, but it has been dropping for years. It was 915 in 15-16, and then it was 913, 912, 910, 910, 908, 907, 905. So it's been slowly declining each year. But this year it seems to be most noticeable. What are your thoughts on why goaltending, the amount of saves goaltenders have been making, is dropping based on the number of shots that they see?
Well, I think part of it is if you go back to the lockout too, where it kind of tipped down before, is you had a switch in goaltenders. So you had new goaltenders coming in the league. You had old goaltenders at the end of their prime, and you run into, hey, this goaltender's falling off, so he's giving up a couple extra goals or a goal a game. So that's bringing the save percentage down. And then you also have these new goaltenders that are coming to the league that aren't exactly necessarily ready for, NHL play yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being forced to be used. I think the Blackhawks are actually a really good example with that. Wasn't it the other night? There were 6 shots, 6 goals.
I don't know which game. I know last night they chased Binnington. He gave up like 4 goals on 7 shots. And,
so, I mean, you're seeing a lot of that too, where you're getting goaltenders that are giving up 4 goals on 7 shots like Binnington did. But I think it has to do with older goaltenders getting ready to phase out and retire that aren't at the top of their game, and then new goaltenders coming in that aren't ready for the level of play. Not only that, but the offense has gotten more driven. Like the shooters have only gotten better over the years.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because as you're talking, I'm listening to you, and I'm kind of perusing over the stats here on the page, and trying to see where there's some kind of anomaly in the stats. And the first thing that jumps out to me is the goals per game are up. They're up by a considerable amount. Most years you get like at a 2, right around at 3 goals a game, almost exactly. We're at 3.17 this year, is the amount of goals that are scored every game. So it's up considerably, as far as that goes. And now on top of that, power plays. The power play percentage in the league right now is higher than it's been ever. Well, higher than it's been since 1990.
Okay, so it's been a while.
Actually, to be honest with you, since 1985-86, it hasn't been this high since then. So it's high.
That says a lot because the goaltending in the 80s wasn't exactly fantastic. You had good goaltenders in the 80s, but the position wasn't as evolved as it is today.
Right.
And do you have that stat as far as goals average for the 80s?
Goals scored?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's see. This year for in the league, it's 3.17. In the 80s, you had, starting at 89 and working backwards, 3.68, 3.74, 3.71, 3.67. So it was almost 4 goals a game in the 80s. And right now we're just over 3, almost 3.25.
Okay.
Which is, the most that they've had. Cause there was they call it, you hear about the dead puck era.
Yeah.
And sure. Yeah. There was a dead puck era in the 90s. and I can look here and see, yeah, it was 2.6, 2.5 per game in that dead puck era. So it's over, that's almost a goal less a game total in the dead puck era. So it's things may be swinging around a little bit.
Not only that, with the dead puck era, you also had goalies playing around with pad restrictions.
Yeah.
So when they couldn't go wide, they went taller. When they couldn't do anything with the leg pads, they beefed up the chest protectors. That's when you started to get all that, and the league started to really regulate all that.
And something else you take into account, just the size of goaltenders themselves. How many goaltenders in the NHL during the 80s and 90s were 6'5"? Not many.
No,
you had goaltenders were 5'7". You had Darren Pang, who was like 5'4".
I was just about to say, you had Darren Pang. You had all the goalies then. You'd be lucky if they were 6 foot. I think a lot of them are around 5'10", 5'11", 5'9", right around there.
6'1" was tall for a goalie back then.
Yeah.
Now you got goalies that are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6".
Well, there was somewhere that I had read that a lot of teams won't look at a goaltender under 6 foot anymore.
I think that's pretty true.
If you're not 6 foot and you don't have that size, it's not there. So it's kind of weird that the goals have gone up, but the goaltending has only gotten better. Equipment has gotten better. The size of the goaltenders has gotten bigger. The net size hasn't changed.
I really think that shooters are adjusting to the new style of goaltender. It's taken them probably a decade, which is like a whole generation of hockey players to adjust to goalies that are bigger, to pads that are different than what you saw, deer hair pads and all kinds of stuff like that. Now they're foam pads that have, specific rebound control on them, and blockers and sticks, and goalies being able to play the puck, which, was a rare thing. If it wasn't Martin Brodeur, there was nobody playing that could play the puck decent at all. Now a good majority of goaltenders play the puck decently. I wouldn't say they play them great, but they do play it decently. So I think this is some of the league kind of evolving, and the shooters starting to get used to these goalies.
Well, one thing I think you bring up a really good point there, that the shooters have finally figured out the new style of goaltending. And if you look at these goalies that are always in RVH at the post, they're picking that top corner nearly every time. And there's a lot of videos out there on where the goalie, in my opinion, should be standing up on that post.
Mm-hmm.
But they're down in the RVH. And the shooters have just gotten so good at that. If you give them, this much space, they're going to pick that corner. And a lot of them are, even in that RVH position, there's not a lot to shoot at.
Well, and what they're doing is they're banking it off the goalie's mask.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're turning around and they're aiming for a goalie's mask. So now we're in a situation, and this is one of my big pet peeves with goaltending. And I'm a staunch hater of the Michigan move because of the fact that you're picking the puck up and you're swinging at a goalie's face or head, depending on which way his head is turned. The only way, really, when you go side to side, it's really hard, especially when you're a shorter goalie, to get anything but your head in the way of where that puck's going to go. So you're telling people to pick up the puck and swing their stick at a goalie's head. Now that's going to create more, concussions. It's going to head injuries, neck injuries, things of that nature. That's why I don't like them promoting this as much as they are. Sure, it's fun. Sure, you could say I hate fun. There's plenty of fun goals out there. And there's other kinds of lacrosse moves where people do it and you're not really swinging it. You're using it as a projectile, but you're not swinging it at the goalie's head. And that's what I don't like about this. You and I both, we go post to post. We're lucky if our head is in the way where that puck's coming. And we're going to try.
of a Michigan that caught me in the helmet. I blocked it, but it's like you said, even my team, like I blocked it, whatever play went in, whistle blew, and my team's like, he cracked him in the head with the stick. Like, isn't that a penalty? Well, no, because technically the way the rule's written, it's one of those areas that I think needs to be addressed as far as that goes.
Yeah.
The rules got to be looked at. One of my favorite plays is as a goalie that I thought was really smart is, I forget what team did it, but the guy faked the Michigan and he threw it over the net, and the guy picked it out of the air and put it in.
Trevor Zegras and Troy Terry, I believe. Yeah.
And it's stuff like that I think is really bringing up the goals. The shooters are getting better. They're finding new ways to score. The Michigan, it's a great move. Can you defend it? Yeah, can defensive defend it? But when you start throwing into, okay, this guy's going to throw the Michigan, we got to stop him. Then this guy throws it over the net. Like, they're just finding new ways to go to score, to put the puck in the net.
Yeah. And that's fine. I'm all for new, get better. The goalies had to get better. Shooters for a long time didn't need to get better. And now they need to get better. They need to make better moves and things like that. And I'm all for that. But, back to the Michigan move, like, I just, like, in a league where everyone's worried about concussions and CTE, how can you promote something where you're swinging at a defenseless goalie's head? And no mask really protects you against the shock of your head being jerked over because someone whacks you in the side of the head. Like, every time a goalie gets whacked in the head by a stick, like, any player gets hit in the head with a stick, it should be a penalty. It should be a high stick, whether the goalie's down or not. Like, you should not be. And I've been whacked right smack in the cage by people who are whacking at rebounds, and they're being irresponsible about it. And they're just, throwing their sticks in there, trying to be assholes about it. Pardon my French, trying to be assholes about it. And I'll be like sitting there and bam, I get a flat stick blade right in the face. Well, what if, it breaks your cage? What if the cage snaps and, it's there for protection. It's not supposed to be there as a weapon. Let's say
you're using a cat eye, and this is what took me the longest to switch to a cat eye. What if the sticks goes through the mask? And we've seen that accidentally. We've seen it on purpose this year.
We're going to talk about that. Maybe not this one, but a little later. And one of them, that's one of our topics.
Thing. And that's why when we had the Uncage on here with him, he's doing a fantastic job promoting a new product. It'll be interesting to see, because if you can have those narrow bars and still have the vision, not only are you increasing safety, but you're increasing goalie visibility.
Right.
So as far as the goalies and the goal average, just goals against average going up, do you think that now the goaltenders have to adjust to the shooters? And if so, how do they do it?
Well, that's what I would like to see, goalies, that, because there's things that are going to have to change, just the way it is right now. They're getting very vulnerable. They're getting complacent. A lot of goalies I'm watching, especially in the youth, because I'm getting to see a lot more youth goalies right now. I'm getting to see they're defaulting to going down, because in lower leagues, in the lower ages, especially like Squirt, like I'm watching, it's hard for a lot of players to really get the puck in the air. Unless you're a AAA player, there's not a lot of people that are sniping top shelf in Squirt. It just doesn't happen. You just get a lot of kids that are just kind of shoveling the puck towards the net. And this is still travel hockey, but it's rare that you see a kid out there who's really got a shot that can really lay into it. So the goalies default to going down, and they get in that bad habit of going down immediately, because what is it? 9 out of 10 shots are probably going to be down anyway. As long as you can cover low, you're going to be good to go. But you're not keeping yourself in a position where, if the guy does go high, you at least have a chance. You're just good. As soon as you see the guy start to lean into a shot, you go down. Well, then what happens if the guy does a head fake and leans into a shot? And I'll be honest, being a goalie, I think benefits my son, because my son's not a goalie. I can tell him what a goalie's thinking or what a goalie's trying to do, or, how a goalie's trying to size up a guy or get a guy to move it a certain way. I can tell him that all the time. And on top of it, I can scout the goalie in warmups and I can tell him where to shoot. So
yeah, this goalie's hanging his glove a little low. He's got a tendency to drop. I think one of the things in order for goalies to move forward is they got to go backwards. And I say that with the play style. I think a lot of the goalies lately that have been, how can I say this, successful, have been goalies with more of a hybrid style. And I think if you look at it from the scorers only getting better, and like you said, new goaltender, the true butterfly goalie where they slide on the ice, back, forth, they're always playing that percentage, the odds with, can I get over here fast, push left, right, butterfly slide.
And
I
the
think
advantage, or I was going to say the advantage to the goalies, the bigger goalies is when they're doing that, if you're 6 foot tall, like you can get away with being down on the ice and sliding side to side because you're 6'6". But if you're 5'9" or 5'10", like you don't have that advantage. There's 8 inches of difference on your limbs, on your height. Like that makes a big difference. It really does. Add 8 inches onto your shoulders and see what, how much more area you cover.
I personally, like I said, I think in order to go forward and bring that goals against average is you have to go backwards and you got to start, hey, this is my save selection. Maybe I need to go and get to my feet a little bit more instead of staying down. Because a lot of these goalies, again, are getting beat in the RVH up high. They're picking that corner off the helmet. They're staying down and getting burned. So I think in order to go forward, you got to go backwards in this case. What worked.
It's funny because a lot of the goalies and goalie coaches are defaulting to trying to defend VH versus RVH. Maybe neither one's the answer. How about that?
The way I coach it is I say, this is this is this. Use it in the appropriate situation. I have a tendency of when I go, VH, I always go VH on my glove side. I tend to go RVH on my stick side because I like to do that sweep check. But there's instances where I don't want to do that. And being stuck with one save selection isn't the answer. A lot of goalies are being taught this is how you do it. Well, there's other ways to go about it.
Right. You work to advantages, your advantages.
If you know these guys are going to pick those corners, maybe you get up to your feet as soon as you can instead of staying down in the RVH. You got to read the shooter. And I think that's one thing that is another thing that will help the goals against average come back down is the goalie's got to look at the shooters a little bit more and see what's going on. What are their hot spots? What are they trying to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me.
Yeah,
for sure. I like the individuality of goaltending. What I don't like is the goaltending factory where you go in there, teach kids this is the way it is, and this is the way you have to do it for the rest of your life. I don't like that at all.
It's funny that you say that because if you look at majority of goalies nowadays, all the styles is cookie cutter. So once you figure out one goalie right now with the play style, I would say 75, 80% of the time, you got the next goalie figured out. You got the next goalie figured out because they're all taught the same way, the same thing, and how to play the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
If you go back to, Hasek, Cujo, Wab, Rador, they're all goalies. All goaltending has the same job, but their styles are always a little bit different.
Yeah, that's what I like when I see like Blackwood in Dallas. He's different. Is Wedgwood? That's it. Wedgwood in Dallas. Blackwood's in New Jersey. I like watching him play because he's different. He's unorthodox. Exactly. He plays more of an old hybrid style, which is fun. And even like Robin Leonard to a degree, like you'd get a stack pad out of him. Like he was not cookie cutter. I'm saying it like he's past tense, but he's still around, but he's injured.
If you look at Fleury too, look at Fleury.
Mm-hmm.
He was around when that was transitioning out. So Fleury is one of those few that has a little bit of the old school, some of the new school, and he meshes the two really well.
And that's how you keep shooters guessing.
Yeah,
by
exactly.
Being a little bit different. You relying on some of your athletics, your athleticism to make a save occasionally. It's not as fun when you're watching a goalie who's very measured and has every angle down and doesn't look like he's doing a whole lot out there, but it's effective.
I mean, the thing that is interesting about that is a goalie that plays like that. Yes, positioning is good, angles are good, everything's on. That is fantastic. He's going to make those saves. He's going to do that. And yeah, it's kind of boring to watch, but it's the most efficient way to get the job done. A lot of these spectacular saves that you're used to seeing is because, well, guess what? The goalie's out of position.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's the pluses and the minuses.
Yeah,
they might give up a goal they should have saved, but they may also save a goal that they shouldn't.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So
that's kind of why I like that. That kind of hybrid in the middle, because you never know what you're going to get. You get a little bit of surprise here and there. You get a little, wow, where'd that come from?
No, and that's where I think to adjust this goals against average and bring it down for the goalies is you got to switch the style up. You have to do something because and don't get me wrong, the NHL has wanted to say we want to make games go up, scoring to make it more fun to watch. And the NHL has done things to do that. But as a goaltender, your job is I'm going to try to keep it as low as I can.
Which is funny. Every time that someone says the NHL's trying to put more goals on the board, make it a more fun sport, and I get that will bring in the casual fan more, but then they increase replays where they're taking goals off the board.
Yep.
So you're taking more more replays, taking more goals off the board, more stupid offsides goal, because the guy's ice skate was 6 inches away from the blue line, didn't quite touch as the puck went over. He had nothing to do with the play, but he's offsides, and we're going to pull that goal off the board. That's kind of craziness. And I even my whole thing about that was the Andrew Shaw headbutt goal.
Oh yeah,
why can't that be a goal?
Well,
that should be a goal. It should be.
In theory, what did he do wrong?
He did nothing except for the rule says that you can't hit it off your head into the net on purpose. He did it on purpose. I thought it was a beautiful play. And it's not just because I'm a Blackhawks fan. I thought it was a great play. It was smart. He couldn't do anything. You can't smack it with your hand. You can't direct it with your hand into the net. You can't kick it into the net. So what are your choices? You got a puck in the air. It's in front of your face. What do? Boom. You had it into the net. Goalies had it for, there's goalies who use their helmets to head. So I thought it was a smart play.
It's a smart play. And I think that's the things that you got to look at. Hey, yeah, you can't whack it with your hand. But should that rule be changed for a goal like that? I think so.
I do too. I thought that should have been a goal. Anyway, all right. That's topic number 1. We've already spent almost a half hour on this topic. So we'll just keep rolling here. If anyone wants to email us, let us know. It's TNP, the net perspective at the-rink.com. If you want to send us any future topics or anything like that, or if you have an opinion that you want us to read on the air about, this, please send it over. I'll share it with Dutch, and we could probably talk about it in a future episode. Segueing now into the next thing. This was a fun discussion, and it goes back to head injuries, things of that nature. And this is the newest thing with the league cracking down on goalies when their helmets flip off, when they fall off. A lot of people call it when the goalie pulls his helmet off, and I'm going to give you my opinion on this, and we'll see what you think. So goalie masks are what they are. The materials are what they are. When you get hit in the you get hit in the face, probably 9 times out of 10, your plastic buckles will pop off on the bottom, one or the other. I had it happen all the time. Sometimes you get a hit higher. Sometimes the top buckle will come off. You'll get buckles that will come off. You just can't help it. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not because they're not tight enough. It's not because they're too, whatever. It just happens because of the impact of the puck hitting on there, hits it, and the plastic snaps just kind of pop off. And when that happens, your goalie mask is dangling out here in front of your face. It's not flushed up against the face where it should be to protect it. You want your goalie mask flushed against your face. So when you get hit, there's no cushion in between there. So you don't get smacked. That's the idea of goalie masks. Well, once the buckle pops off and your mask is kind of hanging out here, that now you're waiting for a guy to hit it, to take a shot, and it may take it high. He may not. But the chance that you may slide over, whatever, you get hit, and that mask is out here in front of your face, maybe an inch and a half. You get hit in the face, bam, it hits you in the face, and now you're cutting your face open. And now you're really in trouble because now you're bleeding on the ice, all because the NHL wants you to keep your mask on and they don't want to stop plays because of it. So what goalies have been doing is that pops off. Sure, it's a great excuse to get a whistle. I get that. But for I've never flipped mine off on purpose. But that being said, I'm screaming at the ref. My mask's coming off. My buckle came off. My mask is going to fall off. I'm yelling at the ref, during the games. But the NHL is a different animal. And who knows what the refs are paying attention to, as far as goalies go. But I just don't once you start criticizing it, someone's going to get hurt. If you don't let goalies, if the goalie puts his head down and the mask slides off, so be it. Okay. I get if there was another point of contention on this, which was, I guess Jake Ottinger, was it Ottinger that got the penalty this week? I think it was.
I believe so.
Yeah. Where it looked like he was trying to get it to slide off, but the chin cup was probably caught on his chin as he was trying to do it. So it wouldn't come off. So he did it a couple of times. That's not that. I think there's a misconception out there that because his helmet didn't come off when he immediately tried to push it off, that meant that it was secure enough on his head for it not to come off. It just got caught. There's chin straps, there's things like that. So, and he could have got caught on his chin. When you're in the middle of a play, you just whack at it. You just give it one of those. And if it doesn't work, you whack at it again.
There's been times there's been a couple of times that I've been hit. I've been in the butterfly and I've taken it and it pops the mask and both my buckles popped and the ref's looking at me and I pulled it off. And obviously It's not NHL, but I have pulled it off to get a whistle because, hey, I am injured. I'm hurt. I have done that. And the ref blows it dead and this isn't NHL and I get the rule, but it's a safety concern. So like you said, when his helmet was on, it obviously was loose, but it couldn't come off. So let's say he gets plowed into and now his helmet's loose, but he bangs his head. Now you're talking something else can go wrong.
Yeah.
Because now his helmet could be twisted, fall back. He could hit the back of his head because those back plates aren't exactly fantastic.
No, they're not.
So now you have a helmet that's not fitting correctly and you fall back and catch your on the ice, or somebody comes by and spins the helmet. Like you're looking at different injuries, not just from the helmet coming off. I understand that you don't want the helmet to come off, but if it's dangling there, it's kind of a safety issue in itself. They don't want players playing without helmets anymore.
Yeah.
And if you go into the league rules for Pee-wee, squirts, high school, all helmets have to be fastened correctly. Yeah. So, okay, if you're teaching these kids at a young age that these helmets have to be fastened correctly, and if there's an issue, they have to get off the rink, why all of a sudden are you condoning that, well, this goalie's helmet who isn't secured correctly has to continue playing?
I totally agree. I mean, it's a safety concern, and I don't like this discourse of people treating it like goalies are cheating. Sure, it's going to happen. It's going to happen where a goalie's helmet maybe, maybe the strip didn't pop off or whatever the case is, and he pulls the mask off or something like that. But that's going to be a rare thing. Like,
Well, it's
you
like,
don't want goalies to be out there without their helmet on, or their helmet. If the play started and their equipment is fitting properly, what if a skate blade comes off or something, like a goalie skate blade comes off or something like that, and it makes it a dangerous situation out
well,
there.
let's look at what happened in Buffalo, right? And I'm going to football for this as an example. And this is an off the cut example, right? You had a football player get hit in the chest, literally died on the field, and then had to be resuscitated, right? And
Mhm.
you're talking safety. You have goaltenders that are their job is to sit in front of projectile shot at them at 90, 100 miles an hour. It's a big safety concern because you could have a situation like that. How many goalies have been cut open with skate blades
Or even players for that matter.
for
Evander
players?
Kane.
You're getting a lot of things. And is hockey a rough sport? Yeah. But could it be rough and still be safe? 100%. And I think you really have to look at the goalie mask thing and say, hey, this guy is standing in front of, a puck that's coming at him at 95 miles an hour. If it catches him in a loose fitting mask, it could kill him.
Mm-hmm. And how many? And I've seen many like pictures of like the cage breaking and almost taking someone's eye out. I mean, Darcy Kemper last year, he got a
Yep.
stick in the face and he missed like what is it, 2 full rounds because his eye never really healed during those playoffs. He was good enough to play in the cup, but like for like 2 full series, he wasn't able to play because he got hit with, he got hit in the eye. So you don't want that. And eye injuries, like you get hit in the eye, you're done. That's your, look at Brian Berard. I mean, he got lucky, but as a goalie, you can't have a goalie out there that can't, see properly.
My personal opinion is it needs to be addressed. And if they are worried about having goaltenders that are doing it on purpose, usually those guys have a track record of doing it. Like you can identify the ones that are doing it on purpose. Like if, let's say Fleury, for instance, Fleury's not one that constantly throws off his helmet. As an example, like, has he flipped off his helmet? Yeah, he has. But there's other goalies that do it constantly. And this goes to another topic of kind of goalie rules that are going on right now and what goalies are knocking the net off on purpose and which ones aren't.
But let's transition. That's a great transition. Let's do it.
Because right now you're seeing more goalies knocking the net off. And there's a ton of videos off of it. But there's also other things that are going on with that. They're using different pegs than they were in previous season because there's a safety concern. And
and two, you see, like, again, people misconstrue some of these videos and some of the evidence. You see a goalie out there and he's rocking the net. Like he's checking to see how solid the net is, how tight it is on the pegs. He's not trying to end the play. He's not trying to do that. In all honesty, the goalies want the net to stay there. They want to be able to use it to push off of. They also want it to be able to move if they get pushed into it as well. So the goalies want, they want everything to work correctly. We don't want it to be incorrect. We don't want it that way.
There's a video of what's his name on Toronto. Like you said, he's got the net. It's a top-down view.
Matt Murray.
He's shaking that, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's knocked the net off a million times. He's cheating." No, I do that. Okay, the net's lodged. It's not going anywhere. Okay, that's good. Has he knocked off the net a bunch? Yeah. But also, he's one of those goalies that really drives on the post.
Mhm.
because a lot of goalies are taught seal that post. So when he comes over, he's not trying to ease into it. He's trying to seal that as fast as he can. You know,
Yeah, no, I've,
and
I've I've crashed hard into the net a couple times, and I'm not a light goalie. Like there's a couple times where I really went hard trying to like push across, and like I just didn't care if the net came off.
yeah,
I just was trying to get over there as much as I could and get my arm around the post. As someone was maybe coming around the net, and I was a little bit out of position, push over and try to grab onto the post. But I hit that net and it rocked back, a little bit, just from playing aggressive hockey. Have I ever kicked the net off for like for a play, a breakaway or any of that silliness? No, I've never done that. Not on purpose, never once.
no,
I just never thought of it. It's never come into my mind to do that for a play. I've been mad. I've been a whole lot of things, but I've never kicked the net off or pushed the net off on purpose. If it's gone,
when I think of a goalie taking the net off on purpose, the first thing that comes to mind, Lundqvist.
Yeah.
Turning around and tossing the net off the pegs.
Yeah.
Are there goalies that might kick the net off? But that takes honestly, if you're going to kick the net off sliding across, especially with the NHL pegs, that takes a lot of, I'm purposely going to try to do this. That takes a lot of, there's times that most of the times it's an accident. And this goes back to, like I was saying with the mask, is, all right, what's actually going on here? Do you have a goalie that just likes to push off the post or play on the post and the net's coming off? I don't think you should be penalized for that. But you got to look at it from another way. Well, what goalies are constantly doing that, and what's the play? How's the play evolving? Because you can kind of see, okay, this guy might be kicking it off on purpose if there's a reasonable reputation for it, if that makes sense. The play's evolving. He's done it 5-6 times on a backdoor play.
Right. And with all of these things, if they want to complain about it, maybe be proactive. And maybe this has to be USA Hockey. It has to be bigger, and maybe an international, on an international level with hockey. Say, goalies straps pop off. Okay, well then work with the companies to then develop some kind of snap that is more resistant to coming off and holding on. The same goes with the nets and the posts. Like if we're having a problem, the goalies are bigger than they ever were, maybe heavier than they have been, and they're hitting the net at a higher rate of speed, which is knocking it off. Well, then we have to work on changing the way that those posts are. They're like rubber hoses, basically, that they drill down into the ice, and you put the net on top of it.
They were in previous years. And that goes back to safety. We're talking about the mask safety, and we're talking about, okay, well, if you crash the net, you want the net to give away so you don't get injured, which is understandable. So you want the net to come off. But as a goaltender, a lot of times you're using those posts because they're anchored in. And should you push off the post? No, but you do. I do.
Everybody. I do. I'm small. Like when I press off, like I need that help. It's like a sprinter. And I was a sprinter in high school. Believe it or not, I was a sprinter. When they use the blocks to push off, when we cut, the 100 meter, 200 meter, you use those blocks to generate power to push off. Well, I use the post sometimes to generate power because it is it's a stationary thing, supposedly stationary, that I can push off of to use power to push across the crease. And I need all the help I can get. I'm 5'7". Like I need help. So,
I mean, and that's there has to be a point to where you can have the middle ground. Like you can still push off the net, but it's still safe.
Well, how about this? What if they, traditionally, I think maybe we have to think outside the box. Everything's traditional. It's always the way we've done it, right? Well, you've got the pegs on the posts. What if there's some kind of way you can mount something towards the back of the net, kind of like the rubber hose that fits in? You drill two holes on the back of the net, behind the post in the back, that then sits in the ice. That kind of helps it sit where it's going to go. But if it hits hard enough, if you plowed into or whatever, the net's still going to dislodge, so someone's not going to get hurt. Maybe something like that is a solution.
Exactly. And it's okay, you want to stay with tradition, but okay, at what point do you update it? You can still keep the pegs in the net, but what else can you do? Like you said, can we add a peg here, or can we maybe change the design of the pegs a little bit?
Or
maybe,
even one of them, like the rear post, post in the middle. What if that goes all the way down? There's a hole. You put the little, you put the rubber hose in there, like they do on the posts in the NHL. Kind of, they use kind of like rubber. It's like rubber hoses, right?
Yeah, it's like a rubber stopper.
Yeah, right. You put one of those in the back. It adds another point to then help the net stay where it needs to be. If someone is playing, like they're not trying to push the net off, it would make the net stay in place a little bit easier. But, when it comes in with enough force, it will come off and goalies won't get, their knees won't get raked around the post or anything.
Yeah, or a player just won't eat a stationary net with his teeth,
Yeah, right.
But they just got to sit down and really look at the situation. And our goalie's doing it on purpose? I don't think so. I think it's just, like you said, goalies are bigger, and starting from goals against average to, the mass to here, it all trails into one thing. Goaltending has evolved. Equipment has evolved. The pegs are still, we've been using pegs the whole time.
Yeah.
Is that something we update? Do we update the mask buckles? Do we change a couple of things? What do we do different to promote safety but still allow the goalies to play their game?
But yeah, I just think it's like, instead of branding goalies like the enemy, the criminal, and this whole thing, let's just say, here there's a product defect. The buckle's on the mask. You get hit in the chin, it's going to almost certainly pop your buckles off. Well, then that's a problem. We need to go back to the manufacturers, and we need to figure out, some sort of a remediation to that problem. Not saying, oh, well, the goalie's a bad guy because he flipped his mask off. Well, his mask was, 2 of the straps were off. He was going to get hit in the face. Like, what do you want him to do?
Yeah. And same with the net. Oh, the goalie's a bad guy because he kicks it off. Well, did he mean to kick it off? No. He went, slid over. So what, from a product standpoint or an engineering standpoint, can you do different?
Yeah.
Instead of saying these subgroup of players are doing something that we don't like. Okay, well, it's a problem. Let's look into it and address the situation.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
If you got nets coming off left and right, okay, well, if they're kicking,
and there's been more this year, so I get what they're saying, but like we brought it up earlier, goalies are bigger, goalies are heavier, like they're coming across with more power than they ever have before. Like, if the goalies are evolving, the game has to evolve, and some of the equipment has to evolve as well. So,
well, if you look at it, the NHL has is trying their best to evolve with modern times. Look at the dasher boards when you watch on TV now. It's all digital. You get advertisements for your local area.
Oh, I hate them.
I hate that's what I'm saying. They've modernized. They're trying to do that. I don't like it in particular. I think it's a cool idea. It's something that they could use for something else. I think it's clever. I don't like it. I like the old school dasher boards.
Yeah, I don't like the movement. There are times when people just disappear and you get the glitching and the weird stuff like that. Like, that's annoying. That's really annoying to watch. I don't want to see that. Like, I don't want to see the players that I'm there to watch disappear into some stupid ad that I don't care anything about. Yeah. It's dumb.
That's what I'm saying is they're doing all this updating. They need to look back at the game itself, at these equipment issues. Okay, if you're updating the dasher boards, okay, but look at the pegs, look at the nets, look at the straps, look at what's going on the ice in those situations. What can we do from an equipment standpoint that's going to fix this? Is there anything that we can do? Can we change something? If there's nothing that we can do, can we adjust the rule? Because how many times have you kicked the net off, or I've kicked the net off that, yeah, it's not completely off the goal line. It's maybe 2 inches off the goal line, that the refs let the play go, they come back and receive the net.
Yeah, all the time.
And maybe that's something.
A good ref will do that. A good ref is paying attention, and as the play goes back the other way, they will come fix it.
So maybe that's a case of, okay, if the net's completely dislodged, the whistle blows. If the net's a couple inches off, let the play go, see what happens, and then at the whistle, fix it. Because we all know for a fact that, and I know if they do something like that, that'll create another issue. Well, if the post was on, this wouldn't have been a goal because the net, it should have been here. You're going to have your plus and minuses no matter what you do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, there's no surefire answer to it. This is, again, opinions of two goalies. So, but, you have to evolve. If there's a problem, you can't just go and brand people criminals because of, the way it goes. That's like saying, it's somebody's fault because they tried to use the Michigan move and they hit a goalie in the head, gave him a concussion. It's not the player's fault. You allow it.
Yeah.
You're allowing it. Now, if you change the rule and they do it, then it's the player's fault. But if it's within the rules, it's within the rules. Anyway, all right. We're rolling into the home stretch here, and let's move it on a little bit. I can't say there's anything that's more fun or less fun or anything as far as subjects go, but we're gonna hit the next thing on the agenda here, and this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, partly because I don't like the player, but
okay, I get where we're going with this one.
Yeah, I don't like the player, but I don't like the player because of the subject. So that's where we're going with this. Jordan Binnington, goaltender, overrated goaltender for the St. Louis Blues. He was a story, came from the ECHL, late in his career, won a cup with the St. Louis Blues. Then they were forced to overpay him because he had such a great year and he won the cup. So I'll give him credit for that. But I never thought he was a great player. I think it was the team around him and the coach that
it was a perfect storm of events.
Yeah, right. For sure. I will agree with that. Anyway, lately, the past couple of years, we've seen several instances where Jordan Binnington is, yapping at players on the bench. He's acting like he's going to get into fights on the rink. He's pulling off all these shenanigans and hijinks on the rink. And first of all, Jordan Binnington, since he won the cup, has not been that great of a goalie.
No, not at all.
He's been maybe league average. He's had a couple of highlights here or there, but he's not been great. And I feel like and some of the people who know me as a goalie are going to laugh at this because I'm starting to feel like he's becoming more of a distraction. And this is coming from a goalie who's a loudmouth and talks a lot and all that other stuff. So I could be a distraction, but I'm playing men's league hockey. I'm not playing NHL hockey. There's a whole different level of playing professional hockey, being paid. It's your living, paying millions of dollars to me, who's playing, D League hockey somewhere, and some guy I'm yapping at because he did whatever. It's a whole different story right there. But I don't like Binnington's fake tough guy act where he acts like I'm going to beat you up, but this ref's holding me back. And I'm going to go to the bench and I'm going to challenge the whole bench. And, after he gets pulled from a game, it's like, dude, you get pulled from a game because of your play. You just disappear like Homer Simpson.
You go to the bench, you sit down and you skate off the rink and call it a day.
Yeah, because you came off because of your play, not because of anyone else out there. It's nobody else's fault but your own.
It's not like you haven't had goalies who have done stuff like this before. Billy Smith, Ron Hextall. Okay. And did they have
to be honest, Patrick Waugh.
Yeah,
Patrick Waugh was a real loudmouth out on the ring, out on the ice, and he got a fight with my boy Mike Vernon.
I think the difference with it is those goalies, yeah, they ran their mouths, they had their antics, but they also always maintain a level of play.
And they backed it up.
Now, in Binnington's case, this is what I see. I see somebody who wants to run their mouth, who can't back it up, and isn't producing. It's one thing, like you always hear about a cancer on a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
At what point is their skill good enough to keep that cancer on the team? At what point does it become a problem?
And it has become. I think it's become a problem,
I mean,
especially
his save percentage right now is a .889 or something.
Yeah, that's brutal.
I think
Terrible.
that's where it's at right now.
Yeah.
So does he really have a point to be running his mouth at the moment?
No.
I don't think so.
And what is he going to do? Like, unless there's something that nobody knows about, that he's been training in jujitsu in secrecy, what is he going to do? He's not a tough dude. He's skinny. He's 6'1". He's 170 pounds. Like, he's a skinny little dude that is just running his mouth, and someone's going to knock him out. Someone's going to, like, prime example, Ray Emery.
Oh yeah.
Ray Emery, God rest his soul. Ray Emery, if he was around, would pound Jordan Binnington in just to a slobbering mess on the ice. He would, and I would love to see it because he deserves it.
And you know what? You go back to, other goaltending, Patrick Waugh, Ron Hextall, all those. They would fight. They had to back it up. Binnington either needs to stop it, get his game back, get his head back in and start playing the game and get back to where he was. Or he needs to, prove that he can do the tough guy act and bring his play up. But he's got to bring his play up. If he wants to do it, either way, his play has to come up. But he also has to, if he's going to play the tough guy act, he's got to show that he can back it up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his stats here, and they're worse than I thought they were.
What is his save percentage? If you have
his save percentage is .891.
Okay.
In all situations, but he's saved negative 14.1 goals against goals saved against average. Negative 14. So he's given up 14 more goals than the average NHL goalie with the amount of playing time that he has.
Hold on. And this is a perfect way to kind of end this. Where did we start at the beginning of this episode with goalies' goals against average being higher than it normally is?
Being lower. No, it's lower. Remember? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, negative 14. That's terrible. And he's actually leading the league in games played. So he's played in 36 games out of like their 40 whatever games they've played. He got pulled against the Blackhawks, giving up 4 goals on 7 shots.
Yeah.
Like, this dude, he might be the biggest albatross contract in the league right now. And that's saying a lot from a team that we watch that has Seth Jones out there, who's like, they couldn't give that contract away.
Have they considering seeing what Scott Foster's up to these days? I mean, I know he's at practice a couple weeks ago.
There you go. Peter Cech. We'll talk about that in a different episode. I'm kind of teasing that, but the Peter Cech thing with the Blackhawks was kind of cool. We'll probably talk about that next episode, but yeah, it's just like it's old. Like someone's going to knock him out. Someone's going to do it.
It needs to happen.
It could be Ryan Reeves. He's now in the division. Like Ryan Reeves has no qualms about it. He'll knock your ass out. He doesn't care if he gets suspended. No. Like as much as he could be, a dirty player or whatever, like, what you're going to get out of Ryan Reeves, and he's not going to take it from anybody. He'll plow your ass right over.
Who knows? Maybe Binnington will run his mouth again to Justin Bieber, and Justin Bieber will come out and school him. That'll shut him up.
No, he would go talk and he'd yap and he'd be like, well, he just seems like kind of a jagoff, that Binnington. I'm all for, new goalies, and I generally default towards defending goalies, but this is one guy I can't. It's not because he plays for the Blues and I'm not a big, being a Blackhawks fan.
It's the
just because I don't like him.
Of the goaltending in general. We're all goaltenders. Let's be honest, it's a bad image. He doesn't have the skill right now to back it up. He doesn't have the attitude to back it up. If he had the skill and the attitude to back it up, I could defend him a little bit more.
And the funny part about it too, it's like there's a lot of talk about, well, he did win a cup, and that year that he won the cup, he only played 32 regular season games out of their 82. He played 32 of them.
Yeah.
So it's like it wasn't like he came on and, dominated the entire season. He had a good season when he played, but remember Ville Husso, I believe, was on, I think he was the other goalie on that team, and he ended up, being pretty good as well. But like, yeah, sure, he came on in the playoffs. He played all 26 games. He, overall, he didn't. He played average. He had a 914 in the playoffs, but he played all of their games. Like, he started 26 games and won the Stanley Cup, and that's fine. But who also won who won a Stanley Cup, but he didn't play in the Stanley Cup, is Scott Darling.
Yeah.
He played in a series for a handful of games, and Blackhawks fans got lulled into that, thinking that he could be the next starter for the Blackhawks. And luckily they didn't, they still didn't do good after that. But
no,
if Scott Darling was left around to play for the Blackhawks and they let Corey Crawford go at that point, the downfall would have been a lot quicker.
Oh yeah, it would have came down.
So anyway, I think we've covered enough for tonight. I think we're going on an hour
I
here.
think all three of these topics ran right into each other, and you can bounce it off all together. All of them relate. And, do rules need to be adjusted? Yes. Does safety need to be looked at? Yes. Does equipment need to be looked at? Yes. Does Binnington need to stop running his mouth? Yes.
Yes.
So
yeah. Cool. Well, I think this wraps it up for us for at least this episode.
To those out there watching, have a good night. Send in any topics that you have in mind. We're more than happy to talk and discuss them with you. Pop in the chat, ask some questions,
and hopefully, I can work on getting some more guests. I know I'm trying to line up some guests and stuff like that. So we'll have more people on. We want to we never really got to properly thank Surgeon Singh from the Uncage when he was on our last episode. So I want to formally thank him for coming on with that. And I'm sure, maybe sometime later in the year, or maybe in the summer, we'll touch back and see how it's going. Maybe it's going well, maybe it's not. I haven't.
Who knows? Maybe he's designed some new buckles at that point too.
There you go. I mean, that's good. Maybe we could put him get him on the job for that, since he's got the expertise to do the stuff like that.
All right.
So, all right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here, and then we'll get out of here. So thanks to all of you for listening, watching. Please support us, share it, let your friends know. Again, we're going to try and do this a lot more often, at least every other week. If we got some more topics and we're all not too busy, we might do it weekly, but we're going to ramp it up as the season goes on, now that we have a lot of subjects, and we're just going to continue to go on. If you want to email us, it's TNP, which stands for The Net Perspective, at the-rink.com. Send us some topics, stuff you want to talk about. Could be anything. Could be a particular goalie, could be an era, could be a team, could be anything. We'd be glad to talk about it and discuss it. And so with all that being said, this is The Net Perspective, brought to you by puckhockey.com. That's puckhcky.com, on all of your 5 favorite podcatchers, as well as the video versions on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube Live, and all that stuff. So with that being said, this is Gatekeeper over here. Over there, I got Dutch. We'll see you guys next time. And that being said, get in net.